In this video, I will show you why weight loss is harder with Hashimoto's, especially in January, and exactly what you can do about it. Because if you have Hashimoto's, weight loss doesn't work the same, and there's a physiological reason for that. And once you understand it, the entire approach is going to change. The most important thing to understand is that weight loss with Hashimoto's is not a single issue problem. And that is why Hashimoto's weight loss is fundamentally different. And it's not just calories, it's not just exercise, and it's not just your thyroid. Hashimoto affects multiple systems that all influence metabolism, and weight loss depends on those systems all working together. Now, one big difference that I see clinically is insulin resistance. People with Hashimoto's are much more prone to insulin resistance, even when they're not severely overweight, even when they're eating what would be considered a healthy diet. But when insulin stays elevated, the body receives a constant signal to store rather than release because insulin is very inflammatory. And so what happens is fat becomes harder to access and weight loss is going to slow or stop completely. And it doesn't matter how much effort you're putting in. But insulin resistance rarely exists on its own, right? It's not in a vacuum. And there's other things that have a lot to do with it. Immune activation and inflammation are really, really big things here as well. And they've really changed the rules. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition. So this means that the immune system is chronically activated and usually at the wrong times and also attacking the wrong things. And that immune activation is going to create inflammation. And what's so interesting, and I don't find that this is explained nearly enough and well enough, is that the inflammation that's created by this immune attack doesn't just attack the thyroid. Of course, yes, there's a lot of inflammation right here in the thyroid, but additionally, that inflammation is actually all over the body. And this is going to directly affect your metabolism. And when that inflammation is present, the body is going to prioritize defense and repair, but it's not going to prioritize fat loss. And so naturally, energy is going to be diverted towards immune activity. And because of that, our metabolic efficiency is going to drop. Now, inflammation also interferes with thyroid hormone signaling and hormone utilization at the cellular level. So essentially, what this means is it interferes with how your cells receive and use your thyroid hormone. And this is why so often our labs appear normal, but the cells are not actually getting the hormones that they need, and that slows the metabolism even more. Plus, with Hashimoto's, the hormone conversion and absorption process is also often less efficient to begin with, even with medication. So we actually have less room for error, so to speak. Now, what might be a mild mismatch for someone without thyroid disease becomes this complete stall for someone with Hashimoto's. And this is why people say things like, I eat very little and I still gain weight, or I exercise consistently and nothing changes, or my favorite, I look at food. And just by looking at it, I gain weight. If I had a penny for every time someone said that. So many people with Hashimoto's feel like their metabolism is slower. And in many cases, it actually is. Now, another layer that is often overlooked in weight loss conversation is digestion and detoxification. People with Hashimoto's frequently have slower gut motility and more constipation. And this is not just a digestive issue, right? Slower transit time, meaning how quickly everything moves through your system. When things move more slowly, it actually increases reabsorption of hormones and different inflammatory compounds. Because think about it, right? Things that are waste go into our intestines and then they wait to be excreted, right? The things that are in there are things we do not need, right? So there's certain toxins, there are excess hormones, there whatever the body wants to get rid of. And so when our transit time is slower and we're not moving things as quickly, then whatever toxins are in there, they can get reabsorbed through the bloodstream and the walls of the intestines. And what that does is that's going to worsen insulin resistance, and it's also going to negatively affect the immune activation. The liver and the gallbladder also play a really, really big role here. So, if bile flow is sluggish, and this is very common with both hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, and not something that, by the way, shows up in labs a lot, but it often is the case. And bile, just so you know, is what's produced in the liver and it is stored in the gallbladder. And bile is what actually helps us to emulsify our fats. So, it helps us to better digest our fats and it helps us to better absorb our fat soluble vitamins. So, things like vitamin A, D, E, and K. And so when that slows down, which is extremely common, fats and certain nutrients are not going to be processed very well. And not only does this create digestive issues, but it creates nutrient deficiencies from not absorbing those fat soluble vitamins. And vitamin D, for example, is extremely important to help balance the immune system. And you may be taking vitamin D, you may be going in the sun, but if you're not processing it, then you're not getting the vitamin D that you need. And also, when we have sluggish bile, it causes our excess hormones to not be cleared as well and reabsorbed back in. That creates more toxicity. And all of this is going to directly impact both insulin, blood sugar, and yes, your metabolism. So, supporting liver and gallbladder is very important for weight loss with Hashimoto's. However, we want to be very mindful about how we do it. So often people do detoxes that are way, way too harsh for Hashimoto's. And if the channels of elimination are not properly ready, not opened, right, if they're not primed, then people actually feel worse instead of feeling better, and they gain more weight too. And I've heard so many times people say, oh, yeah, I did a detox and I'm feeling worse, but that's okay. It's because I'm doing a detox. And I've heard providers say this to their patients and clients as well. Oh, you're feeling worse. That's because you're detoxing. Just keep on going. And yes, in some cases, that could be true if it's for a few days. But so often people can feel off the whole time they're doing a detox, which should be a week, 2, 3, or more. And in those cases, that's not good, because if you're feeling worse, yeah, it's a detox symptom, but it actually means that literally those pathways aren't open. So you're pulling toxins and pushing them and trying to get them out, and yet they can't get out. So think of it as like if you have a sink and it's clogged and you turn the faucet on, the sink's going to overflow very quickly. So you have to make sure the drain works before you actually start filling the sink. So it's the same thing with detoxes. We don't want to keep pushing. We don't want to take more detox herbs necessarily, as much as there's many good herbs like mecthisol or N-acetylcysteine or glutathione that are wonderful. But if your channels of elimination are not open and they're not ready, that's not the way to do it, and you'll feel worse. So it's really, really important that you think about prepping the body instead of pushing things out. Another thing that I see often that stalls weight loss with Hashimoto's is when people make healthy choices, but they're not combined properly. And this is where things often get confusing, and also where many people have their biggest aha moments. With Hashimoto's, it's not just what you eat, but it's how foods are combined, and that can influence your metabolic response. So here, it goes beyond blood sugar, because most of us already know that we should not eat large amount of carbohydrates, and that we shouldn't eat a lot of carbohydrates without balancing them with other food groups like proteins or fats, right? Because we need that to help blood sugar. But what many don't realize is that when you combine the food groups are our carbs, our protein, and our fats, the way you combine them will actually dictate exactly what and how much fat the body is going to either store or release. And this has nothing to do with blood sugar. And I see this play out all the time. I remember a conversation I had with a friend, and she told me she was really excited about her new weight loss plan, and she mapped everything out, and she was eating super clean and super healthy. And her go to was just having apples and almond butter. She had that for her morning snack, she had that for her afternoon snack, and she was really excited about it. And for her, it made sense. It's a common weight loss combination. It keeps people full, it's balanced, and for many people, it works fine. But I remember thinking, yeah, that's great, but this will never work for Hashimoto's. And it's not because apples are bad, and it's not because almond butter is bad, but because weight loss with Hashimoto's follows different rules. And that exact combination is one that I see over and over again in people who cannot lose weight with Hashimoto's. Now, what's tricky is that eating the wrong combos won't always make you feel bad. In fact, you may even feel better, but the wrong combos are going to still keep the weight on. And that's the part that really trips people up, because when you have Hashimoto's and you're eating foods that are considered healthy, foods that work for other people, and then the scale still doesn't change, the assumption is usually that you need to eat even less, right? Or you need to work out even more, or be stricter, or cut more carbs, or do these other things, right? And many people don't stop and ask whether the strategy itself is mismatched for a Hashimoto's metabolism, but it's a question that they should be asking. And what makes this even more complicated is that these systems don't operate independently. So someone might lower carbohydrates to help insulin resistance, but if inflammation is still high and if digestion is sluggish, Well, that change can increase stress hormones and then slow metabolism even more. Or another person might focus on gut health, but if blood sugar is unstable, immune activation continues and then weight doesn't move. Or maybe someone might optimize their thyroid labs. Great, of course. But if the liver and gallbladder aren't processing the hormones efficiently, well, those signals never fully reach the cell. And again, the weight's not going to come off and there could be more weight gain. So, in order in which the system is addressed and supported really does matter. And for Hashimoto's, I find that we first need to support inflammation, then get the right combos while focusing on blood sugar, then address detox pathways in a way that really opens them up instead of pushes them, and then look at the gut in the same way to make sure things are open and moving. And as we do that, there are also some very, very sneaky sabotages that I often see rear their ugly head that often have to do with things that happen to us around food when we were little kids. And they play a big role and they really move the needle as you address everything else. So we have to look at them as well. I would love for you to walk away from this video with the understanding that weight loss with Hashimoto's is not about trying harder and it's not about being stricter. It is about supporting the right systems in the right order. And once you see that clearly, a lot of the frustration will start to make sense. And I find that even just understanding why things haven't worked can take a huge amount of pressure off. And it helps you to stop blaming yourself and stop forcing approaches that were never designed for a Hashimoto's body in the first place. Now, that said, I also know that understanding this conceptually is very different from knowing exactly how to apply it day to day. And I know that you likely don't need more information because, gosh, there's so much information out there, but it's really more that implementation, that specific structure, and that guidance that's specific to Hashimoto's. And so, if that is you, then definitely check out my 10-day Hashimoto's weight loss transformation, which you'll see at the link below. It's not just another meal plan or generic one size fits all strategy. It is a complete thyroid step by step system. And while food is the foundation, losing weight is not just about food. So, in addition to the Hashimoto specifically designed meal plans, it also addresses what you need to actually support your thyroid and your immune system, which is crucial with Hashimoto's. And in this process, you get everything from Hashimoto's food pairings with complete recipes and shopping lists, but also all the Hashimoto specific detox strategies that help to release stubborn fat, to the step by step inflammation support to increase your metabolism, to understanding your thyroid type so you can actually optimize your thyroid for proper fat burning. And so if this resonates with you, definitely check out the link below and you can see much more there.